Good morning. This is Jon and Jenise Musselman here with Just Maintenance, and we're happy to be here today with Melony and Ryan Oestreich. We're here for an investor highlight. We love to do these because Jon and I have been investing for about 10, 11 years since 2012. And so we love to talk to other investors just to see how they did it and why they're passionate about investing. So we thought, who not better to talk to than our good friends, Melony and Ryan, who you both are entrepreneurs as well. So I wanted to start out and just have a conversation about what are you doing today? Because real estate investing is your side hustle. So talk to us about your day jobs.
Technically.
Yeah, well, I'll start. I've been a financial planner for 15 years, so that's absolutely my day job. But a real estate investor for about 8 years now with my wife.
And my full-time job that I say is full-time mom, and I'm also a real estate agent. And then part-time is the real estate investing, which I'm more of like the project manager, contractor role.
So how did you guys get into real estate investing? What really got you interested or piqued, your desire to do this, whether it was part-time or full-time? What led you down this path?
It's hard to remember exactly, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I probably heard some Bigger Pockets podcasts about it. But I also have a lot of clients that are real estate investors, and when we were looking for our forever home in 2014, we ran the numbers and we just realized that we could keep our current home. So we decided to try that out.
Yeah.
And our first rental property was the house that we were living in for 4 years.
Yeah. And was the house that I wasn't sure I was quite ready to give up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had, Ryan bought an actual building. He bought a house, a place to live. And then when we got married and I moved in, that's when all of the painting happened and the little decorating and the, making it a home. And so when we were moving, it was a little sad for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually funny. I remember specifically asking you, at what point do you think that I won't think of this house as our house anymore? Do you remember me asking you that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. It took a while, probably 3 or 4 years before I stopped thinking of it as our house.
Yeah.
And being so protective over it, with every tenant. I think by the third tenant, I was like, okay,
you were
it's
okay.
Yeah.
Slap some paint on.
It's good enough.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
Start.
This was our second home or third home together. But this was the home we had our babies in.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
a big difference.
Yep.
we couldn't give up this home. We ended up renting this home, and lo and behold, another story, another day, right? But
Right.
we're back in this home. But it's hard to give up a home as a rental that was your original house because
Yeah.
there was so much emotional feelings to that home. And but like you said, by renter number 3, you're like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The original homeowner mortgage is a good one too, so
Yeah.
it's easier to keep.
That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, one of the good strategies is when you bought that home, it was your 30-year conventional. It was your first-time homeowner's loan, right?
Yeah.
So you had a really great interest rate on that versus buying an investment loan where you might have a higher interest rate. So keeping that financially, running the numbers, Ryan, I'm sure you're the numbers guy, right?
Yeah.
You ran the numbers on that, and it worked out really well for you.
Yeah.
Forward, backwards, upside down.
Uh-huh.
It
We'll
was
get
checking them out.
into that later. But so your strategy, do you guys buy and hold? Are you flippers? Or what's your main strategy just with investments?
Our main strategy is buy and hold. And I think even more specifically, we buy already tenant occupied. And then hopefully have cash flow until they leave. And unless you get into an eviction situation, which is completely different, but hopefully you have cash flow until they leave. And then we use that money, we kind of bank it and do a more, serious renovation when they leave in between tenants.
We do a good turnover and rehab of the units.
Yeah.
It's a big
So
deal.
why did you choose that strategy of having a renter in the home upon purchase?
I know why I did it. I feel like it is an extra layer of security, financially speaking. You don't have like a sudden outflow of cash before getting anything.
Yeah.
It makes me feel a little bit safer.
Yeah, it's a little safety net. The tenant obviously already lives there, so they understand the current condition of the house. When you buy it, you're probably looking at the things that you're creating a checklist for, and you're going to improve over time. But they don't know that. They like it the way it is for the most part. They'll let you know if they don't.
Right.
You don't have to pay a property manager to place a tenant, so you save 1 month's rent each unit for that. So yeah, it's mostly financial.
When you're looking to buy the home, is there anything you do to screen the tenant before you buy the home? So like, how do you get comfortable that this is a person that's going to pay me? Because do you just trust the seller that if the seller says, oh yeah, they're a great
They're
tenant,
great.
like how do you validate that?
I'm a relationship person, and I have a really instinctive gut. So if something doesn't feel right, it's usually not right. And when I go against it, I'm usually kicking myself because I'm usually right. So when we're looking at a property and considering buying it, I always look at a rent roll and see what is the payment history, what is the actual rent that they're paying, things like that. And I'll have a conversation with the seller about, tell me about the tenants, or when I'm going to even look at it, I can kind of see the condition of the place that they're living in right now. How are they keeping it? If someone is keeping it and it's not ideal, it makes you second guess.
Yeah.
But if I walked into one and it was as if it was this, they're taking really good care of the property. They really care for it. And so that gives you a better feeling about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like a gut and also trust but validate with the rent roll and the payment history.
Yeah.
And it can be a mixed bag. We've gotten tenants that
Yep.
haven't stayed for very long, and then we had to find our own. And usually, the ones you find your own, they can be better. But we've kind of just settled on the strategy for the time being.
Yeah. So Ryan, from an asset perspective, I know from firsthand conversations, you believe strongly in asset diversification.
Yeah.
So how do you, being the financial guy, how do you manage, what assets do we want to have in real estate investing versus assets in other places too?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I know some people are very passionate about real estate as the best asset, but I'm not. It's just one asset in addition to mutual funds that I have in my 401k, or stocks that I've picked and things like that, insurance policies. So a lot of times with your retirement plans, they have annual dollar amount limits, and you can't go beyond that. So if you need a certain number,
For contributions, I mean.
yeah, for contributions, right? So you can put $6,500 in an IRA, for example. But if you need to save more than that just for your own personal retirement picture, real estate's a great, long-term appreciating asset with tax advantages. So I just think of it, it's harder to buy it because, they're big transactions. It takes a lot of time. It's not like just putting $1,000 in a mutual fund, but it's probably a good, fifth of our retirement picture.
Okay, so fifth of the pie.
Yeah.
And your plan is to buy and hold for the long term.
Right.
So this is a long-term investment strategy versus, hey, I'm hoping to get appreciation, and then in 2 years I'm going to sell this and move on.
Right. Yeah. We don't
Not
need,
at this point.
Yeah, we don't need the income. We don't need the sale either. This is something that hopefully, 30 years down, we generally put debt on the property. Once it's paid off, it's going to be a really good cash flow in retirement.
Yeah.
So do you pay cash for the property and then refinance, or what's the initial strategy of securing the property?
It depends.
Yeah, it really does depend.
Yeah, if we're doing it with partners, usually we're buying it in an LLC, and a lot of times we'll buy it in cash and then do a cash out refi. If we're buying it in our own name,
Yep.
then we might just go for a regular 30-year mortgage. And I do mortgages, so I can set myself up with a mortgage, or, we have a line of credit on our stocks. So if I want to buy in cash, I could just actually draw down on the line of credit that way. So we have a couple ways that we've done it, and we do it differently each time.
Yeah. I'm trying to run through it in my mind. I'm thinking Lansford, I think that was just outright
that
cash.
My first property that I bought beyond the one that we just held on to was cash, because I think I was just trying it out. So we bought a $30,000 house.
Right, and this
You
is the
can't
one
get a
that was
mortgage for that.
more north from you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the Poconos.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the Poconos.
That one was just outright cash.
and that we did not inherit a tenant, and we needed to do the rehab up front. So it was a little bit different, but that's actually been a great one for us. We had one bad year, actually 2 bad years if you count COVID, because the eviction moratorium wasn't friendly to us there. But it's been good for a long time.
Good.
What about
Deal.
just with the financing, Ryan? So I know that there's IRAs where you can actually use the IRA to invest in real estate. Have you guys dabbled in that at all?
No, I don't. I know it's not a bad strategy. There's a couple of custodians that'll hold your funds and let you purchase and put the deed in the IRA, so you can do a self-directed IRA. Real estate has tax advantages of its own that you kind of lose when you put it in an IRA, because an IRA has, either tax deductible contributions or tax deferral, but anything you put in an IRA is going to be treated that way for taxes. So real estate is a tax-friendly asset to begin with, especially if you do things like cost segregations and depreciation on your taxes. So we try to just own it outright, and it makes it easier, I think, also to own it with leverage. Because I don't know, because I don't do this, I don't know if you can put a mortgage on a property if you have it in your IRA. It's probably just cash, right?
Well, yeah, because you've already, I guess technically you have a lien onto that through the IRA. So the IRA would be first position, and then some of the
I don't
banks
know.
aren't enjoying that because they want first position. So, but
Yeah.
that's just
I know
something
literally
I've
nothing.
done a couple podcasts on it, but I just haven't gotten intrigued enough to
Like,
say
listen to
that's
them.
like my strategy that I'm
Yeah.
going to do. Because
Yeah,
for
I know
us,
people that do it.
yeah, we typically just do cash and then refinance. That's just worked out well for us. But it's interesting, like the whole, do you put properties in an LLC or do you hold them in your personal name? Because I know for us, when we started doing this early on, I thought, okay, the LLC is the safe way to go, right? Like you listen and everybody says, oh, that's the way you protect yourself. But then you also get into some challenges with securing financing
Yes.
because financing doesn't come as easily by, or you have higher interest
Right,
rates
not as
when you
good
have it in an
terms.
LLC. Whereas, one of our credit unions, PSECU, if it's in our personal names, I mean, we can go out and get a HELOC, no problem, on a property, but they're like, no, if you have it in an LLC, any commercial, we won't even talk to you.
Right.
That's not our gig. So that's been interesting for us to figure out, okay, well, what do we feel comfortable with? So we've just done the umbrella policy over everything.
And that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
some of the more recent properties, we just buy them in our own name. You get good conventional financing that way. It's the investor rate, but it's not bad,
Yeah.
especially when you compare it to an LLC loan, which is usually going to be higher.
Yep.
And not as long in duration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
good
so
strategy.
good insurance policy is key no matter what.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. So let's talk about more procuring the actual assets. So we talked to Jason, John's brother, about this of, okay, well, do you do a home inspection? Do you not do a home inspection? When you go in as an investor, our biggest concern always is, okay, there's a purchase price, but then all the other costs that go into it, whether it's old systems or electric, right? In some of the areas we invest in, there's a lot of old knob and tube wiring that we know we're going to have to eventually rip out. And so how do you come up with that list? Because ROI is the name of the game, right? On the rental. So the last thing you want to have is you get it for what you think is a great purchase price, but then you end up sinking a lot of money into it that you didn't plan on.
It's like a smack in the face.
How do you protect yourself from making sure that when you're running the numbers, you're running it with true costs in mind?
Yep. I think that's one of the benefits. I've literally used Musselman Home Inspection for every property that we buy. So through that process of buying multiple houses and having the same inspection company doing your inspection, it teaches you also. So you get a great picture of what your house looks like, but also I'm learning in the process. So then I can kind of take that information, and when I'm even going to preview a deal, when I'm going to do my showing on it, I can look and I'm like, okay, well, John always talks about looking here, and this is how you see the serial number on your hot water heater, and that's how you know when it was manufactured, and they last about 10 years. And so like through the times, I have learned and can see issues before even putting in an offer.
That's a big deal. kind of knowing a little bit, at least you might not have the whole picture, but at least you
Right.
have kind of a good foundation of the major systems that are happening, and
Right.
that's very, very important. So,
Yeah. So I think that helps me in being able to make smarter choices on which deals to even go for, because I've learned so much through the times.
And so have you done traditionally walk-in talks, or are you doing full home inspections, or maybe both, depending?
I was gonna talk about walk-in talks because back in the heyday of the market when houses
Yep.
weren't staying for very long and you'd get a chance to see it and you'd have to make a quick offer. I know David came and did a walk-in talk for me and it was really helpful because I'm not the handy one in our
Right.
relationship. So
I couldn't make it to that showing
yeah,
for whatever reason.
I went, but I really didn't feel comfortable doing it myself. I would rather just be the one that doesn't go and looks at the numbers.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even want to see
I was
it.
like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
even
I just
want
want
to
to know, like, what's it going to
Just wanna
cost
be
me?
there.
We bought properties that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll go there to do a turnover, and he was like, "Oh, this is my first time here." I'm like, "Oh, here, let me show you around."
I
Check it
still
out.
haven't seen Church Street.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
She doesn't want you to see that one.
Please don't come there.
Mel, what did you invest in?
The 4-unit in Reading. He
Oh.
hasn't been to yet.
Yeah.
That one's actually not bad at all.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
That's been a non-issue for us, knock on wood, like from the beginning. So
Good.
no, yeah. I remember only ever doing full home inspections.
Yeah.
But I know we did use David in the Reading one that I couldn't go to. And there was another one I think we might have done, like an after purchase. Is that still a walk-in talk when it's the after purchase? It's like get to know your home, maybe.
The new home
We do
introduction.
what we
Yeah.
call a new home introduction, which
When
is
you're not doing it as
similar
part
to
of due diligence.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Because we might have had, I don't know if we've had to waive the home inspection, but even if we waive it, we still do it eventually.
Yeah.
yeah.
That one I remember I felt confident because of learning so much that I was like, okay, yeah, I can already know these things, but also I want to know more. So then we do like the after the fact too.
Right. So you're learning enough so that you know going into that agreement of sale.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what they're offering, but I know that I'm going to need a new heater, a new
Right.
roof. Maybe knob and tube wiring is happening, so that you're able to get all those big ticket items in your head. And then, like you said later, yes, we acquired the property, but I still want to know everything.
Right.
I want that thorough report so that I can continually refer back to, prioritize my hit list.
Right.
High, medium, low, like what do I need to go after? Because I think for all of us, we have a number in our mind each year on, well, what do we want to do on repairs and maintenance, right? So there's always going to be those repairs that come up, but we also want to continue to have homes that appreciate and that are staying in good condition so that eventually someday when we sell, we're able to obtain, you know, what we want for that home at
Yeah.
market value or above.
Yeah. I think too, it's just really important to know all of the things about the house. And it's so concise. Like you can literally look at the report, like hot water heater, click, and then it takes you to it. It's like, okay, this is when it was installed and this is where it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes like
Yeah.
there was one we bought during the height of COVID where it's a 5-unit and the 1 unit specifically said, oh, we have COVID. And I was like, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And so we bought the building without even seeing one of the units. And then recently I've been doing a lot of work there. I'm like, wait a minute, there's only 3 hot water heaters down here.
Who's
Like-
using what?
Where's the other 2 hot water heaters? Like, hopefully, where's the other 2? I did find them. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I couldn't even. I literally have a note on my phone of where everything is located, and like, this is when the heater was installed, and here's the serial number on the hot water heater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? We just had this scenario with one of our tenants who called us one night at like 9:30 at night, and she was panicking, like almost screaming on the phone. They had water just shooting out through the wall of the basement,
Oh no.
and so
Like,
you were
calm
trying
down.
to walk her through.
Like we're
Well, where is the water shutoff valve? And that's one of the things, you know, we always tag up in the basement so that it's easy to find. But in a moment of panic, like knowing all of those key functions of the home.
Where they're
know.
at.
Yep.
So you can kind of be like, okay, it's front right corner.
Yep.
Yep.
You
Go
know,
down the stairs, turn right. Yeah.
has a yellow handle.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
those types of things.
And
Really
that's
important.
important.
People are
too.
like, they
Right.
get really frantic about it. So
Right.
Yeah, it's a big asset. I mean, I put together financial plans for people for a living, and it's a holistic snapshot of your financial life on that day. And a home inspection is really like that for your house. It's just a
Agree.
holistic snapshot of the house on that day.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of measure the progress and see here's where it started, and then you know you
Here's where we want to
kind of
be.
see where you want to be.
Mhm.
It helps for documentation, for cost segregations. You have all the
We've gone
information
back
you
to them
need,
for that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, our newest product, the maintenance review is kind of similar to that, but it's for people who own their homes already.
Yeah.
And now we're going out and kind of creating that we have at the top of the list, kind of your major systems, where they are in their life cycles, and then kind of another review of the house with pictures and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of been a good thing for us with our rental properties as far as kind of getting a pulse on where things are at, because
Yep.
we get complacent with everything. But
Yeah.
it's a nice newer review, and it wasn't until this house here was when it was kind of our aha moment when we had David inspect it before we moved back in.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
really? I
And-
didn't know you did that.
Yeah, and it was like he went through everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there was things here that that had been here for 40 years, but I just when you live in a space,
Yeah.
even though I
You
live
get,
and
like, blind
breathe,
to it.
exactly.
Well, because when you're
It's like
living,
it's on my
yeah,
list.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That too.
But when you live in your space, you're living, right?
Yeah.
You're helping
Oh,
your
right.
family, you're cooking, you're relaxing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your goal is not to look around and be like, what's wrong with my house? Like, that's the last thing you
Right.
kind of want to do.
Oh no, I do
right?
that all the time. What are you talking about?
John eats, sleeps,
I-
breathes.
I'm like looking around.
Home inspections.
No, I love homes, and I
Yeah.
like to understand what happens and why it happens. So
Yeah.
I do. I have a hard time turning it off sometimes, but I don't
Yeah.
drive us crazy with it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's
Well,
too much
speak for
else going on in the house, so there's only so
Yeah,
much
that's
time you can talk about what's wrong with the house.
Yeah.
So back to the strategy. I mean, you've talked about multi-units. Like, is there a certain type of home that you're going after, or is it just purely numbers? Like, how do you decide what type of home you want to buy for an investment?
Yeah. We have a mixed bag. Seriously, a mixed bag. Our first primary house that we kept was a townhouse. And then Lansford is a twin.
Yeah, I think it's a row.
Oh, it is part of a row.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's also a townhouse. And we have 2 townhouses in Pottstown, 2 multi-units in Reading, and we have a short-term rental in the Poconos.
Single.
So they're all, that's a true single family, like one dwelling unit, but then the rest are townhomes or multi-units. I feel like I would like to hone it in, but there's things that I like about the single family and the multi-units differently, so I haven't just figured out which one I like most.
What do you like about the multi-unit?
I can get a lot done in one day because I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I drive an hour to get there, and then my car's literally loaded with every possible tool that I could need, and I just bang out a bunch of things. I can get a lot done in one day.
Yeah.
So that's really nice to not have to travel in between.
So that kind of goes to this proximity factor of, do you have rentals all over in different counties, or do you try and stay and have a cluster? Because to your point, clustering makes it easier for repairs, maintenance, just that ongoing activity.
The vendor relationships.
Right.
The vendor
Relationships are huge.
And very important.
Yeah.
We basically have a 1 hour radius from our house that we try to stay within, and we'd like to be closer, than on the outskirts of it.
Yeah.
But we live in kind of a more expensive area where the cash flow doesn't look as good to me. I think maybe we get better appreciation, but I don't bank on that. So that's why we go a little bit further away from our house to find some of the investment properties that we invest in. And I do prefer multi-units. Something like a 4-unit is my ideal. Usually you can get still really good financing for it if it's 4 units or less. You can get a regular mortgage, and you're probably paying $100,000 or less for each unit, which is fine. It's hard to do that for a single family house.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, they're about 50.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. We are currently at about an hour radius of our house, and I would like to pick an area.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're in Upper Bucks, and then we have down in Montgomery, we have Pottstown, Berks County, we have Reading, and then we have the Poconos.
Mm-hmm.
So on a day, there has been a time where I had to go from our house to Reading to Pottstown back to our house, and that is a lot of driving.
Yeah, that's a lot of driving.
So
A lot of podcast time.
Yeah,
it is a lot of
yes,
podcast
that's
time.
true. Uh-huh.
So like for my sanity, I would prefer to pick an area.
Yeah,
I would
really
not.
hone in.
Yeah, like I would not buy in Reading again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we prefer not. Even though a couple of our good properties are in Reading, there's a few things we don't like about it. I think we like Pottstown.
Pottstown, I would definitely go with.
Lehigh Valley.
Mm-hmm.
We've had good experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But I think then too, you start to feel like you can invest more in the community itself. So that's something that we've thought about is if we have investments in all different pockets, how do we really even just plug in helping the community?
Yeah.
And so the more and more we start to invest too, for us in Pottstown, it's like, okay, well, there's the Pottstown Coalition and there's other things that as landlords we could be more involved in to, help the community continue to be on the up and up. Like we know that Pottstown has struggled.
Right.
And as many of us that can get more involved, the better to hopefully help that community.
Right. Not only with knowing what resources are within that community to help your tenants.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And subsequently you.
Yep.
But also knowing the local rules and regulations that are
Yes.
being proposed or about to be passed or have passed previously.
Yep.
Like it's really important to kind of have an idea of what the local community government
Yes.
looks like in the communities. And when you have so many different areas like we do, that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Such a
sometimes
good
you need
point.
a license to be a landlord, and you have to pay for that.
Yep.
Sometimes, knowing how the permit system works.
Yeah, how to not get in trouble is a really big deal.
Right. Well, it's such a great point. I love that you mentioned that because I know you and I, like we have the UNO inspectors on our cell phones.
Yeah, for sure.
And they will literally pick up our phone call.
Yeah.
We know the person by first name in the licensing and inspection office. We've created this awareness where there is a camaraderie where we know each other. They know that we're trying to do things the right way,
Right.
that we're complying with the rules. And I think that's the big thing, right? We've always been told the township just wants to know that you want to comply and do things the right way. When they think that you are trying to skirt the system, that's where things start to go wrong.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important for them to know that you are there for the community.
Yep. And you're willing to spend the money to get an electrical permit if you need an electrical permit, or you're not trying to, go around their process.
Right. I'm trying to do it right. Like in Pottstown, when we purchased, there was a different set of rules for rental inspections. And then just this year in January, there was like something new on the list that I wasn't aware of. And he was like, it's all right. I know you're trying to do the right thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be back in 10 days and
Yep.
make sure it's right. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
He knows I'm not purposefully skirting the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. So, Melanie, as a real estate agent, I think that kind of gives you maybe a little bit of an upper hand. How has that helped you with just investing and being able to find homes on the market?
I don't know that being a realtor has helped me necessarily find deals because I do a lot of networking. So like I talk to people about what are they selling or what are they looking to buy, things like that. Obviously, what are they buying? But so I don't know that it's necessarily helped me with finding a deal. But I think that being a realtor has helped me have a pulse on the market, like you were saying, the pulse on the house, a pulse on the market with what is the current condition of other rental properties. 80% of my business is from real estate investors. I do help people find and sell a home, but mostly I work with real estate investors. So I see a lot of properties and their current conditions and what they're being sold for or what they're being listed for versus what they're being sold for. And I see a lot of the rent rolls and cash flows that people are putting out there. So I think it gives me a better idea. And again, like going back to a little bit of a security of having the knowledge in home inspections and having that helps me make better deals for us.
Yeah.
I think it gives you intuition.
Intuition, that's a good word.
So let's talk about renters. What's your approach to finding a good renter when you do have a turnover? I know you guys buy with renters, but
Yeah.
when you have that turnover, is there a certain credit that you look for? Is it income? Is it background checks? Talking with prior landlords? Like, what's your process? What have you found to be the one that really over and over again you can see that that strategy was successful, or maybe there hasn't been one, depending on who you've had in
We hire a property manager.
to do your search
Everything.
and find.
Yeah. Placing the tenant. I did it when we first moved out, and I placed the first 2 tenants. The first time, I feel like it's because we were just moving out, and I was like, I want to find the perfect person who's going to take care of this house. Like, I took care of it and love it, and so I did a really great
So
job.
you did find a really good tenant.
Right. For our first tenant, I did a really great job with tenant placement. It was sheer dumb luck. I knew literally nothing about investing or property management.
But you had a good feeling.
I
and it
did
worked.
have a good feeling. I couldn't even tell you what their credit score was or
Yeah.
like what my criteria was. I think I was like, just do a free background check and send me the, like all clear. I was really so clueless.
Not a murderer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heck, okay, you're good. Sure, you can live here. My second tenant, it was more of a, oh my gosh, they're moving out. I need to get someone in there. And, oh, this doesn't look quite right. Oh, this doesn't look quite right. But whatever. Yeah, you're good enough.
Right, because I need to get income flow.
Because I need
I
income.
rushed it. Yeah.
I rushed it, and that was a mistake. And that was a perfect example of me going against my gut. And then since then, we've had a property manager.
Okay. Yeah, it takes the emotionality out of it, takes the stress out. Yeah.
Probably works best for all parties.
Yeah. Plus the second one, not only were we trying to replace a good tenant, but she was pregnant and showing the property to people at all hours of the night. I didn't
Yep.
really want her out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be out there. So the
yeah.
property managers do handle the tenant placement, and I'm sure they've told me what their criteria is of multiples of the rent that they need to show an income, minimum credit score, and background checks, and they do all that. But I fortunately don't have to remember what the criteria.
Yep. I think that's important. Like, find someone, hire them to do a good job, and then trust them to do their job.
Yeah. And I think, like, to your point is your limits, right? Like, you knew early on, I don't want to get into finding tenants.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right.
I remember specifically, RJ was born in November, and it was cold, so it was probably around October. I was pretty pregnant. I was working a full-time in an office job and had to go show the property after work. So I rushed out of work to get there on time. I'm sitting there, it's cold, and the potential tenant no-showed me. And I'm like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm hangry, and they're gonna no-show me. Like, I remember calling him, I'm like, they no-showed, I'm done, we're hiring a property manager. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. I've kind of learned my lesson on that too, because I started doing open houses years ago as our way to get people to see the homes,
To show your
to
vacant
show our
units.
vacant units, because, to your point, like, I don't have a lot of time to do this, and we haven't hired a property management company. So open houses has really been my go-to. Minus the on occasion, I will need to do single appointments. But I got burned too on that. And now I do the message ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I will message you 30 minutes before the appointment, basically my travel time. If I don't hear from you, I will not be there. Because 30 minutes, to me, like, most of our rentals are 30 plus minutes away.
Yeah.
And so I just can't afford to spend that time and get there and then no one be there.
It's an
right?
hour wasted
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Minimally.
Yeah.
Plus gas.
Yes.
Anymore. Right. Like,
And I realize for us, like, it will take us sometimes longer to place now, because often I'll just say, no, I can't do nighttime appointments. I'm sorry. Like, I need to meet you during the day. Could I place the unit quicker if I hired a property management company? Maybe. But so far I haven't gotten to the straw that has broke
Yeah.
the camel's back.
Yeah.
Once you get there, then I think like, you're like, this is just not for me.
yeah. I think you do a really great job with tenant placement. I don't feel like any of your units have sat vacant for an exorbitant amount of time.
No, you know what I figured? The holiday time is really difficult. We
Oh, that's
had,
everywhere.
yeah, we had a unit that became available towards the end of November. And that was difficult with like the December month. And so I just had to just talk myself off the ledge because I want that unit rented
Yeah.
like within a month if
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
And so it took us 2 full months to rent that.
So by
but
the
it
end
was
of January?
Yeah, we had it by the end of January. So it was 2 months. Which,
We
you
were
know,
doing renovations though too.
we were. It was fine. But
I usually
I
drag
just-
my feet a little bit until I know someone's getting there, and then I'm like,
well, that's what I'm always like, John, like there's a whole room of stuff in there. And he's like, well,
Ah.
is anyone ready to move in yet?
when are they coming?
No, but I'm showing the house.
You
Well,
work
thanks.
best under pressure.
Yes,
He does.
I do.
He does.
I do.
But we have found that tenants give us a lot of grace. Like I used to get really like high anxiety over the house doesn't look perfect.
Yeah.
Almost like you're showing a house on the MLS for a non-rental. That's the approach I would take. And then I realized, tenants give you a lot of grace. They don't expect the home to be perfect when you're showing it, but they do want to see the product. They would see 80% of our home being finished and looking really nice. And so when I had a room that was kind of a hot mess, they would be like, it's okay. We
Right.
know you guys will clean it up before we move in.
Right, obviously, or I'm going to complain and you're going to get in trouble. So.
Right. Right.
Be fun.
The last house we did, this was, I don't know that we would necessarily do this again. But we had a whole bathroom.
I was going to say.
So we had an area of the back of the house that was not done. Like windows had to be taken out and replaced. The whole bedroom needed to be redone.
It's like this is giving me Angela.
Yeah, we were putting in a whole new bathroom, but we did this different because we had a family that really needed to move in, and they loved the house.
They were living in a hotel,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was like, okay,
Yeah.
We were like,
make it work.
Yeah.
but that's been really tricky because
I don't want to do that again.
they're living through construction,
Right.
and then we're constantly feeling like we're impeding on their family time.
Yep.
And so that definitely we will not be doing that ever again.
Yeah.
Because as much as
It's
we all
taken
thought
longer.
we were helping each other, I think in the end it wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
It's not the ideal
Yeah.
situation. Because it's a constant, you have to call and
Right.
we want to
24
make
notice,
sure
right.
that they're aware and you can't work. Like I need to sometimes just pound it out.
Right.
Yeah.
It went a lot longer than I would like. I think all of us would have liked it to. So
Yeah.
live and learn, and that's what this whole process is
Exactly.
about.
Yes.
We've had some hiccups along the way. We've learned, and we try to share it with the people that we know, and as things go on, because it's a big deal. It's not a one. There's not like a one size fits all to every situation. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
That's
a lot
really-
of gray.
Yes.
there
Yes,
a lot
there
of
is.
gray.
So if you could look back on your start out experience, maybe it was your first, maybe it was your second. For those that are watching this who are thinking, I really want to dive into real estate investing, maybe there's one thing or two things, but what would you really want them to know that you learned along the way that would have been helpful to know earlier on?
Like advice to our younger selves, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Two things. I think the importance of property management and just building that into the budget. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's 1 month rent replacement, 8 to 10% of the rent ongoing, and then it frees you up time wise. But then the other thing is, I think there's a lot of myths out there that you need an LLC to buy properties inside of. I don't know why that myth exists, but I think it's a scheme to enrich attorneys and accountants. And it absolutely makes it harder to get financing, and it's not always necessary, and oftentimes an insurance policy does the trick. So,
Yeah.
those things are probably what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah, I would echo property management 100% because for me, I don't know what I don't know. And there's a lot of ways you can get in trouble if your tenant really wants to, if you're not doing property management correctly. Like a perfect example is, I know for a fact with the very first tenant we had, I did not hold their security deposit in an escrow account. Like if they were knowledgeable about rental laws and things like that, I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for that. Timelines for returning security deposits, 30 days, didn't know that. Pretty sure I didn't do that. They could have gotten me in a lot of trouble. So the property manager that's what they do.
Yeah. That's their space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not my space. And I think another thing which I was thinking of is just start. You're not going to do it 100% correct.
Right.
If you're interested in real estate investing, just do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it right, but that's why you learn from
Your mistakes.
your mistakes, right? And have the right people surrounding you to help you, to ask questions, to give advice, to commiserate.
Because we've all made we've made good mistakes, but
Right.
I think to your point, all of us do enough research to be able to just get started.
Right.
And so if you do enough research to know enough to be dangerous, most times you're not going to be making a life-altering mistake.
Exactly.
And so, yes, you may make a mistake that takes some time, takes some money.
Some money, right.
Are you going to be able to recover? Yes, you will. Like you said, surround yourself with people who are willing to help. Get yourself into a networking group. I know there's a lot of networking investor groups out there, podcasts, you know, Facebook, social media groups.
The internet.
Yes. Yes.
You can literally Google anything.
And we were talking about this, a friend and I. You don't have to pay to learn about real estate investing.
Right.
No.
There are a lot of models where, they want you to buy in and subscribe and pay to get the step-by-step to real estate investing. What I've learned is there is no one size fits all.
Agreed.
You could pay $500, $1,000 to get a kit all about real estate investing, and you could go through all those videos in the workbook and realize this is not going to work for me. I don't have this type of credit. I don't have this type of money. This is not the right approach. And so I just feel like the more you can talk to people in real life who are doing it, who will advise you for free,
Right.
Right.
it's great advice, and just capitalize on that.
Right. Well, a rising ship lifts all boats. Or how's it go? A rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of people who will talk to you for free
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
or for a cup of coffee.
Or for a cup. Yes.
Or yeah.
Invite Ryan or Mel out for a cup of coffee, and I'm sure that they will tell you everything and more that you haven't heard on today's Investor 101.
You'll have to invite me twice because I never accept coffee on a first offer.
There you go.
It always takes twice.
Persistence.
There you go.
And I'm always like, are they doing it just because they think it's the right thing to do or because they actually want to talk to me?
Okay, good advice. So ask Mel
There
twice,
you go.
and then she'll meet you for a good cup of coffee.
Not in the same conversation.
Not
You
in
gotta
the
call
same
back.
Right. Yes, exactly.
At least one call back.
Yeah.
So
Well, this has been so much fun. We really appreciate you guys coming out
Yeah,
and chatting
thanks
with
for having
us
us.
and sharing your experience. And I know that there's going to be some real estate investors out there, or maybe you, like we've talked about, you're on that tipping edge. You really want to get into it. Mel's advice would be go for it.
Yeah, just do it.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But we love to be a resource for you, whether it's through our Just Maintenance company or Musselman Home Inspection. We're always here for you. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe and turn on notifications to get our latest videos. We're here to help you understand your homes, how to maintain them, and how to protect them. Have a great day, everyone.